Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Your Choice, our weekly newsletter here at TC&A. We are excited to welcome you into October and tell you a little bit about the origin story of the Leadership Blueprint, Tessa's first book that she wrote. Last month, we were talking about the origin story of TC&A, and the Leadership Blueprint has really become the foundation, and it has been over the last 8 years. And Tessa's going to give us some insight into how the leadership blueprint, becoming the architect of your life and work, was born. So, Tess, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I love a good story, and this one is near and dear to my heart, of course, with the Leadership Blueprint. And how it all began was as I was beginning TC&A, I had an opportunity to speak and coach to a group of salespeople. And I had salespeople within the coaching process and always had a great respect for who they are and the work that they do. And at the same time, I had never experienced a large group of salespeople in one room. And I truly felt a little in awe and a bit intimidated, to be transparent. So I called one of my son, Justin, one of his best friends from growing up, who's an amazing salesperson. His name is Dan. And Dan, very, just very talkative, very extroverted, very, detail oriented. Everything is awesome. It's just awesome. And we love Dan as a friend and seeing his life grow and expand with his wife and children. And I asked him, I said, Dan, tell me a little bit about your sales approach. I'm curious. And I explained to him my opportunity. And so he said, well, Tess, let me tell you. And I listened for the next 45 minutes without asking another question, just listening and taking notes. And at the end, when he finally took a breath, and he'll laugh at this when he sees it because he knows it's so true. When he took a breath, I said, Dan, you don't have just what salespeople need. You actually have something that everybody needs in their life. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, let me share with you my notes. I said, you started out with, in order to really sell effectively, a person has to be a person of character. They have to be honest and trustworthy. And if they aren't, they're really not going to have the success, the potential success that they could have. And then I said, you know, there's a competency level. And he said, yeah, you're right. The competency is you have to know your product. You have to know it inside and out and really understand the product or products that you're trying to sell, because knowledge about your product builds trust with the customer. And I said, the next thing I noticed, you kept repeating this aspect of the way that you went about selling. It was consistent. You would talk to the same people on the same day of the week at the same time of the week. And if you were visiting them in person, you would always take a card or something to them that got them thinking about your product and about you as a salesperson. And he said, you're right. Consistency has been one of the biggest keys to my business, and it still is to him today. I see the growth and the expansion of his life, and it's been full of character, full of competency, full of consistency. Then the next thing I noticed, I said, Dan, you are unique in that you can go anywhere and create a relationship with anybody. You just have that ability to connect and talk to people. And he agreed. He also said, I just am curious about people too. And I
Mhm.
said, that is such a key in creating strong relationships, is that curiosity. You're genuinely interested in people. And he shared a story in the book about how he had built this relationship and really thought, if I get this account, it could be life changing, but it wasn't guaranteed. And yet he still kept building the relationship. And over a period of time, he got one of the biggest deals in his career at that time. The last thing I said I noticed when you have all of these things, character as a foundation and competency and consistency and creating strong relationships, it just seems like confidence is there. You exude confidence.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, and I haven't always felt inwardly confident, but I knew if I stayed true to the character of who I am, I stayed true to the knowledge and building the knowledge of the products. I stayed consistent. I stayed true to creating strong relationships, and I could be confident in that process. And that's how our writing journey began. I said, Dan, I think we have a book here. And are you interested in writing something together and sharing our stories around the 5 C's?
Yeah.
My stories from a coaching perspective, your stories from a sales perspective. And so we did, we embarked on this journey of writing together, and it was so much fun. It never felt like work. We often wrote late into different hours. He, at that time, he had little kids, and I remember even going over before bedtime and seeing the kids and then writing and talking about what's next and sharing what we had wrote, and it was just an incredible experience to the point where we then invited an editor in because the book was getting ready, and we also invited a very dear, long-time family friend who is more like a cousin and family member, Jeff Gertson, to do the graphics. And with that, the book became what it is. And, you know, the book still sells every single month. There are several sales, but it's become more of a workbook of how to create the life we want, how to create the ability to lead our own lives and be responsible for our own lives and lead our lives first. It's been incredible again, too. I know I keep using that word, but it really has been such an incredible journey to see all of these aspects unfold and then utilize all of these aspects in various and different ways within all of our coaching process. I know for both of us, there's not a time in our coaching that we may not say, well, let me take you to the 5 C's, yet we are coaching in the direction of, is there a character challenge that you're having? Is there a competency challenge? Is there a consistency challenge? Or have we created relationships that we need and are meaningful? Is there a confidence challenge? And using all different kind of nuances and language, we are always guiding people back to those foundational principles.
Yeah, we really do. And 7 years later, like you said, the book is still selling and it's used every day in our lives and in our coaching. And it's become a transformational journey for so many people, including myself. I write about that in our newsletter this month of even how I was able to come in. I remember when you guys were writing the book and I was living in New York and working in hotels and being able to see some of the behind the scenes as you were writing and being able to just have a different view into the book before it was launched. And then by the time it was launching, I was living back in California and got to plan the book launch at Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
And I think I was one of the first official students of really going through the book, going through the 5 C's and really relearning for my own self how I wanted to create my life. I was at a pivotal turning point, crossroads in my own life and career, and I used the leadership blueprint as my SOP moving forward.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I started to really understand more and look at who I was from the inside out with my character, really utilizing my strengths and seeing where I had gaps or where I could had improvements to be made. Uh,
Yes.
it helped me to understand my competencies more and really remember my competencies because I
Yes.
was at a lower point in my career and life. And so being able to reflect on that was really helpful. And even unlearn, we talk about that. There's
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
unlearning in competency as
Mhm.
well. And that really served my mindset too of what could I let go of. Being consistent, again, at a time when things felt really hard, I knew if I was consistent every single day, that over time that would add up and that would lead to greater outcomes. And spoiler alert, it has.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I knew I needed to create new relationships and also lean into the relationships I had created over the years. It's always been something that's really important to me, creating relationships. And it really did help me have confidence to keep moving forward, to make that big transformation, those steps, and to trust my own self and my own inner being that I might not have known what the path forward was going to look like, but I could trust myself along the way that I was going to make good and healthy decisions to rebuild my life, really.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, this is a synergy that we do have. I thought of the same thing. What the leadership blueprint, becoming the architect of your life and work does as you work through it, as I've lived it and worked through it, it creates an inner confidence that we can trust ourselves,
Yes.
that we really internally can trust what we want to create, the life we want to create, the work we want to create. And we go through that cyclically as well as when things are high and they're awesome and we're riding that wave. It's never forget all of these things brought us here.
Yeah.
When things are more challenging and we have to really dig deep in things, never forget these things are going to help you rise to the wave again. And it's so, so true. We've
Yeah.
lived it. We know it to be true.
Yeah, and have coached probably, influenced thousands of people for
Mhm.
sure with this process. And it's infused into everything we do. And I know even for my own self of working out challenges in my own life or with clients, just knowing that I have this framework of character, competence, consistency, creativity, and confidence that I can always rely on those 5 C's to help me really figure out the problem, solve the problem, or figure out the direction we need to go, or understand that maybe we need a pause. So they really are a framework and a guide.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful to have them in my life. And they're also ever expanding, which is pretty cool.
Yes, they are. And I was coaching someone earlier this morning where they had looked into a program that was just about positivity, being positive. And I'm coaching someone else right now that just has a mindset, well, if I'm just positive, everything will work out. There is truth to that. And at the same time, if we don't pause, to your point, and really look at the character of how we're living our lives, how we're building competencies every day, how we're being consistent with who we are and in our relationships, how we're creating and staying curious in relationships, and how we're building confidence, we really can't be truly, authentically positive.
Yeah.
And so this even helps, and you and I both know it's increased the level of positivity, increased the level of gratitude, increased the level of being able to see things more clearly than what anybody else can see when they're in the midst of challenges. It truly is such a great and meaningful grid to walk ourselves through every single day that is empowering. And I'm forever grateful for Dan, forever grateful for his time, for Jeff and his time. and Marianne, who was our editor for her time. The three of them really set myself, TC&A, you, and many others up for tremendous success because of their work behind the scenes, and I'm forever grateful for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Touches back on what we were talking about last month with the importance of building relationships. And that has been, a cornerstone for us is those relationships. So we're grateful for that. And we're going to be talking more in depth about the 5 C's and how you can apply them later this month. And in the meantime, if you're interested, you can grab your copy on Amazon.com and sign up for our newsletter as well for more information. So, thanks again for your time today, Tess, and telling us more about the origin story of
You can see
the
all of my
leadership
sticky
blueprint.
notes.
Yes, I have so many copies of the leadership blueprint, and
Mhm.
it's just never gets old.